Ooh, what do we have here? Well, it's the North Coast Football Playoff Preview. Hey. This one's got a little different feel to it, doesn't it? No grandiose musical intro to get you pumped and excited for a Week 10 recap. Let me tell you what happened. Here. So I came down to do the Week 10 recap video, and all I kept wanting to talk about was the playoff possibilities for the teams. I found I was getting distracted. I didn't really want to talk about the matchups because the matchups all kind of went as expected. There wasn't anything crazy. There was your usual Dan giving somebody the beat down and Marcelo Mahler's squeaking one out. Not really squeaking, you know what I mean, though. Anyways. But I really want to talk about the playoff picture. You know, we've only got 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Some teams are out. Most teams are still viable, and I just kind of wanted to talk about that more so than the actual recap. So this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm still going to talk to each team, talk about each team, talk about their overall performances and what I think their playoff potential could be. I might throw in some advice here or there. Again, listen, I'm no expert. I'm doing this because I enjoy talking about pretend football. And I think I have an audience of like 12. So that's good enough for me. Anyways. So that's where we're going. Now, before we get into that part, as always, I do want to take a look at the current standings, where everybody's at. So the thing that kind of kicked this off, this want to talk about the playoff picture, was that the matchups this week are very, very interesting. Now, for Castleton, me, right? I'm right in the middle. If the playoffs were held this week, I would not be in them. It's the top 6 teams overall. Okay? Of course, the top 2, they get a bye week on that week 14. Our playoffs are 14, 15, and 16. So keep that in mind. The other thing that I was looking at is that we have 10 teams that could make the playoffs, and it wouldn't be shocking. Okay? The bottom 3, unfortunately, I don't think there's any possibility that you can make the playoffs. I'm still going to talk about your teams. I want to talk to you guys about it and you know, give you the kudos that you deserve and you know, go on from there. But I think what I'll do is I'll start with the current last place team, 8-Bit Defenders, and I'll talk up each team all the way up to Marcelo Mahler's, who is sitting at number 1. But anyway, but the matchups this week, really interesting, is that so me right there in the middle, right on the bubble, I have a bye week this week. All right? Everybody above where I'm at, positions 1 through 6, they're all playing somebody else within that 1 through 6. Right? 8 through 13, they are all playing somebody, another team that is ranked 8 through 13. Which means there's the possibility of quite a bit of movement this week going into the last 2 matchups that some of these teams have. And I thought that was really interesting. So this week could really start to, the playoff picture could start to take shape in a more permanent fashion. Because right now, again, with 10 teams that are viable to make it, gosh, that's a lot. That's a lot of the league. So, look, I don't know if anyone has any interest in this, but I felt I even shot a couple segments of the weekly recap, and like I said, I found myself not really caring about what I was talking about. And ultimately, this little video is a act of selfishness on my part, because it's just something I enjoy doing. And I found I wasn't enjoying this particular recap. So I want to do something a little different. Now, next week, I'll probably get back into the recaps, because, again, there's a lot of potential for some major shifts. So, anyways. All right. Let's start off with the 8-bit defenders. Okay, Adam. Let's talk about your team. It has not been the best year for you. Hence the 3-7 record and the currently in last place. Now, I felt you had a good draft, but let's face it. You haven't done a lot since. Okay? Yeah, I was looking at your transactions. Okay, so you have 100 of your 100 fab left. And you, according to the records, the transaction records, you've got 4 ads the whole season. Look, obviously, pretend football is a big part of your life, and no, listen. I get it. It's I might this is one of my little nerdisms. I really enjoy the pretend football, and I really enjoy the fact that you are in the league. Okay. But you had a pretty above average draft with the information that we had at the time. And your draft guys, I mean, your big one was what? Kittle, Kenyon Drake, and Chris Godwin. That was 124 of your budget there for those 3 guys. And again, hey, going into the draft, those were good, solid pickups. But they have not panned out at all. I think that's safe to say. They've had their weeks, but anyway. So that's a big problem. But you didn't really make any moves to set yourself up for success, shall we say? Now, you've got a pretty rough rest of schedule. You've got Ryan this week, then you've got John the Younger, and then you've got me. Now, knowing my luck, you'll pull an upset on me. I don't think it's unfair to say that it would be an upset if you beat me on the last week. But that's not where your problems begin in terms of your possibility of making the playoffs. You've got a good roster. It's okay. But it looks very similar to the one you started the season with. And there were probably a week or two where I know Kenyon Drake was a little questionable. You maybe could have moved him because his name, especially near the beginning of the season. I know hindsight is 20/20. I get it, and I'm not here to bash your team. I'm just here to make fun of it a little bit. I will say though, let's see, in your transactions, you did pick up Chase Claypool before he was a thing, right? Because there's no way you could have picked him up. Let's see here. There's no way you could have picked him up after his amazing breakout performance, right? And not spend any fab on it. I don't think that would have been a possibility. Yeah. So anyway, so that was a good pickup. I know he hasn't been everything to everybody, but anyway. And of course, George Kittle getting killed, that doesn't help. But, looking at your team, you would have to have some guys really, really perform well. And even then, I don't think you've got the record to make it. But, so listen, thank you for the $20 donation. Now, this is what you have to do, though, Adam. Remember, the third place team gets to name the last place team's team name for the next season. Okay? So don't be the last place team, or you'll be at the mercy of, I don't know, somebody. Wouldn't it be something if Marsala Muller, if Vince pulled it out and won the whole thing and got to name your team? Oh, the embarrassment that you would have. Oh, I don't wish that on anybody. I'll make my jokes. I think maybe it would be you naming your second team, which would be kind of funny. But you'd be the only person that knew that for sure. I've been looking at your team, so not the schedule. Let's go with stats here. Looking at your team, I mean, Big Ben, he's been all right. I like the Big Ben Joe Burrow thing you got going on. That's been Joe Burrow's been fun to watch. It sucks that they haven't gotten a lot around him, but it's a lot of disappointment. It really is. But it comes down to the fact that you didn't really make the moves to compensate. All right. Look, this fantasy football, pretend football has a lot of luck. There's a lot of luck. You can sit here and pay for all the research and listen to all the podcasts all day, every day, and still end up last. Look, I was last place at one point. Was it week 4 or 5? Oh, that didn't sit well with me. I'm not saying you need to be me, but you needed to do what I did. Okay, listen. Adam, you have no chance of making the playoffs. So that's where I'm going to end it. That's where I'm going to end it. I hope you don't end up at last place, but somebody has to. Okay. On to the next one. Okay. Here we are. Let's see. Who do we have here? It's a Ryan in the Black Swan event. All right, right down there with Adam at 3-7. Look, no one wants to be here. No one envisions their team being here. You hope it's somebody else's team. But this is where you find yourself, man. And again, just like with Adam, I think a 3-7 record at this point. I think you're done. I think it's safe. We can call it. No recount necessary. Now, I'm saying that for a couple reasons. Number one is that the last week you are going up against the Finns, Matt and the Finns, and that's doubtful you'll win that one. I know a lot can happen in a few weeks, but this week, listen, you're trying to fight to stay out of last place. Like, that's the goal you need to have. Nobody wants their team renamed by somebody else, especially some of the savages in our league. Can you imagine? Can you imagine what they're going to name your team if you're last place? So the third place team gets to name you. You got a lot going for you though, in terms of your ability to stay out of dead last. Russell Wilson has been fantastic. James Conner has been serviceable. Not phenomenal. He's not the guy you drafted him to be, but he's been serviceable. I know, Jonathan Taylor, but Calvin Ridley, he's been good. He's been good, especially early on. But when he's out there, he's been good. Been really good for you. Now, you haven't suffered from the same issues that Adam did of not making moves. You've been involved in a lot of waiver wire maneuvering, which has definitely helped your team out. It might not feel like it. But reviewing who you drafted and who's currently on your roster, you're definitely in a better position than you would have been if you had done almost nothing. Is that a Captain Obvious thing to say? I think it is. I think it's Captain Obvious. Anyways, looking over your transactions, there's a bunch that you've done. So you've definitely made some moves. They just haven't all panned out for you. The other thing I'd like to point out to you, And this is silver lining stuff because you're not going to make the playoffs. It's not going to happen. But the silver lining is this. You have the second most points against. Okay? And your points for, the points you've actually created, there's a 40-point difference. Okay? So you average that out over 10 weeks, and that means you've lost a lot of close ones overall. Not saying every game, but it's kind of like you're the team that has lost by a field goal or less for most of the season. You know what I mean? So anyway, there's a silver lining. I know it doesn't change your record, okay? But yeah, just knowing that fact, in points against, you are second place. That's tough to overcome anyways. It's just difficult. But look, all you can do right now is put your best guys in and hope nobody's renaming your team next year. So even though it's over, it's not over in your fight to not get your team renamed or named by somebody else, right? Oof, because there have been some doozies in the past couple seasons, right? All right. Now the nice thing is, you do have a pretty easy end of season schedule. Jeff this week. I'm sorry, Adam this week, Jeff next week. But then you've got Matt and the Finns. You probably won't win that one. I'm not going to take anything for granted, but chances are, right? But the next two games are very winnable, so try not to get last place. Okay, man. Better luck next year. Okay, better luck next year. I think getting through this Corona season with as intact as it has been a miracle. So I hope you've enjoyed at least some of it. At least some of it. Okay. All right, man. Well, like I said, good luck next year. And try not to get that last place. Okay. So now we're going to talk about Jeff and the Banana Slugs. So this is the last team that I think has no chance of making the playoffs. So Jeff, again, well played. I know. You wished it had gone a little bit different. Now, your team, I think, has had the worst luck overall. There's been a couple of other unlucky teams. But I know I don't have to tell you how unlucky you've been. I think, post-draft, gosh, man, you had a scary team. I had to go up against you on week 1. I did not want to do that. But with Saquon Barkley, Michael Thomas, Mark Andrews, and Gardner Minshew, the stash man himself. Okay, maybe not Gardner Minshew. But the first 3 guys I just mentioned, holy crap. And then what happened? What happened? Gosh, just looking in review, Michael Thomas and Saquon Barkley, that was 133 of your 200 budget. Oh, for the draft. I mean, when that goes away, what are you going to do, man? What are you going to do? Now, you also made moves. You made moves. Now, they weren't always the best timed moves. Looking over your transactions, you still got 100 of your fab of 100. So you didn't go after anybody, right? So Saquon drops, you spend that fab to get a replacement, try to do, or make some major trades, something like that. You probably could have traded Michael Thomas at some point during his prolonged absence, just on his name only. A team might have sat on him, been able to sit on him for a while until he comes back, but he has not been even anything close to what he was last year, even when he's been playing. And now with Drew Brees out, again, the unlucky situations just keep piling up on you. So right now, you're not in last place, but that could easily change, with Adam, Ryan, and you all being 3-7. That's a bit, it's a bit tough. you could get last place. So don't. Don't give up. You're playing for not getting your name picked by somebody else, right? You're not playing to win. You're playing not to lose. Hell, dump all your fab on somebody. Whoever's the hotness this week. No one else is going to bid 100 on them, right? They can't beat 100. But anyway, your schedule going forward, you've got Kurt this week, which that's iffy. You never know. Kurt's got a pretty volatile team. I'll be talking about him in a second. Then you've got Jeff. And then you've got John the Younger. So it's been pretty tragic your season. It's been a tale of just tragedy. Not even like the funny, humorous kind of tragedy. Just tragedy. Anyway, I know I don't have to tell you that. And I know this is a short review. Because you can just peg the whole thing on that, right? But listen. Use this, whatever emotion you're feeling towards this year. And it could be none. You could just be an emotionless guy. I don't know. But use whatever that emotion is to do better next year. Because your draft was fantastic. Just unlucky to a degree that I don't think I've ever seen in my years of fantasy football. I've never seen anybody as unlucky as you. All right. Anyways. Well, hey, try not to get that last place. Good luck next year. Because this year, it's over. Okay. So, Josh and the wet-ass Pips. Look. So the teams from here going forward have a chance to make the playoffs. Now, granted, Josh, I know it doesn't look good right now. But I think, and I might have to make the case for this, I think your team is on an upswing. Okay? It's on an upswing. Again, I know it probably doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like it. But you still have your bye week coming up, the last game of the season. You've got Roy this week, so that should be a pretty good matchup. I think you guys are pretty even. So that could, hey, if this week goes your way, next week you've got Vince. So that's going to be tough. That's going to be a tough one. But then you've got the bye week. So, if you could get to be 7-6, I don't know. I think you're going to have to win out. You're going to have to win out. So you're going to need some of that luck on your side. Now, I think, let's see, Cam actually is looking good again. He had oh boy, he probably had you real nervous there for a while. You got Mike Davis, which, by the way, I think that move, if you hadn't made that move to get Mike Davis, you wouldn't have a chance to be in the playoffs. All right. He's no Christian McCaffrey, but he's been serviceable. Not wonderful, but serviceable. Miles Sanders, you got him back, so that's good, right? That's good. I think he contributed to the fact that you're on that upswing. Robbie Anderson's still been fantastic for you. And then Deontay Johnson, man, if you can get him on a week when he hits, you got Dallas Goedert, you got Chase Edmonds. I mean, that's a solid lineup, man. Solid lineup. But you've also, gosh, man, you do have a good team. You do. But again, the McCaffrey being out as long as he's been out, like I said, Mike Davis has been serviceable. But look, I know it's easy to get discouraged right now. You didn't see yourself at 5-5 at the beginning of the season. At this point, trying to make the playoff run. You didn't. I didn't see you there at 5-5. But that's where we're at. Now, I know looking at your points for and against, they're pretty darn close. Your points for is 1,005. Your points against is 1,003. So you're in the positive there. So anyway, that means just like what I was talking about with Ryan, that means you've probably lost some close ones. I'm the recap guy. I know you've lost some close ones. So that's where you've got a chance. It's a little chance. It's the smallest whisper of a chance, but you've got a chance. You also still have 31 fab, which is good. That means going into this last part, this run to the playoffs, you have the fab to try to make a move. After this week, man, look, see who the big pickup is. Doesn't matter if you need him or not. Pick him up, get him. Spend all of it. Spend all of it on that guy. I want to see everybody succeed. I know that's not possible, but the eternal optimist in me thinks we can all make the playoffs. Now, I know you have the power to change that and make it so that the top 10 teams could be in some sort of playoff situation, Mr. Commissioner. But don't do that. Don't do that. Instead, fight. Make your best lineups, man. You've only got 2 weeks, and then you've got that bye week. You've got the 2 weeks. Focus on those 2 weeks, right? All right, man. Listen, good luck going forward, and I mean that. And I can say that because you're not going up against me. So good luck going forward. If you win out, there's a possibility. You still might not make it, but there's a possibility. Again, a whisper of a chance. So make your moves, man. Make your moves. I know that the trade deadline being tomorrow, trades are out, right? Trades are out. But you've got enough fab where you could make one big move, one big splash. Try to get a player who might take you over the top. All right, man. Good luck. Good luck. All right, Steve. Here we go. So you're next up on the list here. Currently sitting in 9th place at 5-5. So just like I've been saying, just said with Josh and the wet ass pips, you've got a chance. You've got a chance. You're gonna have to win out to have that chance, and even then, it might not be enough. But with your schedule going forward, you've got Josh this week. It's gonna be a close one. But if you can win this one, then you've got the bye week, right? And then you've got Dan and the so that's listen. The last week that's gonna be a rough one. Dan has been stomping on people, and not in a nice way. But we're not looking that far down, right? You got to win this week, then have your bye week, then you worry about Dan, right? So if we're looking at it, you also have a decent amount of fab left, 68, a decent amount. Now, you have been involved in a lot of trades. I know this is a league that doesn't trade a lot. There's not a whole lot of trading going on. But you've been involved with a lot of trades, which has been fantastic. I think you're in a better spot now because of the trades, for the most part, than you were previous, right? You made some good moves. If we take a look at your draft now, I know you did the Robot draft, right? There was a lot left to be desired with your draft. A lot left to be desired. When your most expensive player that the Robot spent money on was DJ Moore. And look, I'm not saying DJ Moore has been awful, but he hasn't been great. He's had his weeks. He's definitely had his weeks, but he hasn't been great, man. But hey, we're not here to talk about DJ Moore. We're here to talk about your chances. And maybe what you could do to get to the playoffs. Honestly, I think the pickup of Terry McLaurin was a really good move on your part. I really do, actually. I know that was a trade that we had I don't know. I still don't know how I feel about that trade on my end. I mean, I'm okay with it. I'm not going to be like, hey, give me my guy back. Couldn't anyway. The trade deadline is tomorrow, the 20th. So anyways, but I think Terry McLaurin is going to be a good asset for you going forward. But of course, you know, with Patty Mahomes, I mean, your lineup, you know, I know we had our match this past week, and I know I'm not doing a recap of this past week. I'm doing this instead. I wished you had played AJ Brown against me, but instead, no, you picked up Rex Burkhead, great move, and Mr. Beasley, good gracious. Anyways, I think you're not in an awful spot to try to squeak in. It's not awful. I think with your bye week in there, this week is winnable. But you know, you do have the tough one that there in the last week. So the chances are against you. The odds are against you. But look, if there's one thing I know about you, you're a risk taker. No, I mean there's not a lot of risk. There's just, hey, put your best lineup in, right? Isn't that what we do each week? We put our best one in, and hopefully it's better than the other guys. I do like your chances though, of at least becoming 7-6. I like your chances of becoming 7-6. Yeah, that's probably where I'm going to peg you at the end of the season, which, saying how things go, might squeak you in. I doubt it, but might squeak you in. Listen, no matter how it goes, I hope you've had a good, a fun season. You've had a solid showing. You know, you're 1,013. Sorry, 1,111. 4 your points, 4 total, and then the 1,030 against. So it's close, but you've got a decent separation on the 4 side. So you've made a good showing. You know, I think next year, because let's face it, I think everybody in the 5-5, you got to start thinking about next year. All right. We don't know how the format's going to change. I hope we stick with the auction draft. And I know you had work things, but you know, I think if you were there at the draft, I think maybe you'd have set yourself up better. But listen, like I said, like I told Josh, you've got enough fab where you could make one last move. You might even be able to make 2 with your 68 fab. Whoever the hotness is, it doesn't matter if you like them or not. Whoever the hotness is, just bid a crap ton of points for them. Take them, because you're playing for the playoffs, to squeak into the playoffs. So you got to make those splash moves. You know, and you got to hope that somebody like Brandon Cooks goes off 3 weeks in a row. And anyway, you hope Kansas City finds their run game again. But anyways, all right, man. Best of luck going forward. Again, I can say that because you're not playing against me at all. So maybe I'll see you in the playoffs. All right, Kurt. Kurt with Feeling Fine. Oh, let's look at what you got, buddy. Because, all right, you are basically the best of the mediocre, right? Best of the mediocre. So you're sitting at 5-5. Now, if I was a betting man, after the draft, if someone had come to me and say, hey, lay odds on, or lay some money down on odds that Feeling Fine will be in the playoffs, I'd have put a substantial amount of money on there's no way he's going to be in the playoffs. Okay? And I would have felt really good about that. I mean, looking at your draft, I know it wasn't the best. Look, and let's just take a little trip back in time. Your top 4 monies spent, which totaled a grand total of, right around 150, a little more of your $200 budget. It went in this order of most expensive down to the Austin Eckler, Miles Sanders, Joe Mixon, then Odell Beckham. So, it says a lot to me that none of those guys are on your team now. And what it says is that you're a man who is willing to make the moves to be in a position to kind of almost be able to make the playoffs. Okay? Looking at your transaction history, nobody has made more moves than you have. Nobody's made more trades come even close. I know Roy's been involved in quite a few. But looking at the transaction history, you've got the most trades by far. Waiver wire pickups. You've been highly active on the waiver wire. And that is the sign of a previous champion, multi-time champion. Unfortunately, I don't think it's enough that you're going to be able to pull it out this year. I just don't. And that's just me, with the realistic, putting my realistic hat on, trying not to be biased at all. Because again, I want everybody to succeed. I don't think you've had the worst luck. It's certainly not as bad as some of the other teams. But you've put the work in to set yourself up to be 5-5. I think the schedule is against you in terms of trying to get a winning record for the end of the season. Okay? And I think you can see that as well. You've got Jeff this week, it's a very winnable game. Okay? Talk about you're going up against the unluckiest team who just keeps getting less and less lucky. But you've got Roy. I'm sorry. You've got Bones Bombers and who else? Hold on. Let's take a look at this real quick. I just saw it here. So this week you've got Jeff. Next week, you've got the Finns. That's going to be a tough one. Finns has a solid team. And then you've got Bones Bombers. So, yeah. The odds are stacked against you in a pretty major way. Okay? Not going to sugarcoat it. You've made all the moves you could make. With the trade deadline being tomorrow, the 20th, and not having any fab, I think you've exhausted all of your possibilities. But I'm not saying that in a negative way. You have done extraordinary things, considering where you started and where you're at now. Okay? So I know you can look forward to next year. I think you're at that point. Look forward to next year. You can try to get a winning record. It's going to be difficult for you to tank and be at the very bottom. Okay. It's possible if you lose out, but again, I don't think that's going to happen either. But I think definitely try your darndest, but you're out of moves. And you've got two really, really rough matchups for the last 2 weeks. So, Kurt, I tip my cap to you, sir. You had a hell of a season. Man. One that I think a lot of people can only look up to. Can I compliment you anymore? Can I compliment you on your post-draft performance anymore? I could, but I'm not gonna. So, anyways. Okay, so the dream is dead. You are truly a dog sitting in a room that's on fire. So, just take that to the end. Take it to the end. All right, man. Okay. Hey, next up, John the Younger with Nero's Fiddle. Yes, I am. I'm skipping over myself because no one wants to hear me talk about my own team. And plus, I would probably give something away in terms of my strategy going forward, and I don't want to accidentally do that. I just want to talk about everybody else and what I would do if I was in their position. So, John the Younger, 6-4. So you've got a very real chance of making that. In fact, if it was held this week, you would be in the playoffs. Okay? So we're talking, the teams going forward that I'm going to talk about are the teams that have the best chances of, who are currently in and have the best chances of remaining in the playoffs. Now, your schedule. Let's talk about your schedule. You got Dan this week. We don't need to be talking too much about the fact that Dan has been stomping some potholes in some people's heads. So it's a rough week. But then you've got Adam and Jeff. Come on, man. We're gonna talk. We're gonna talk for real right now. Yes, we are. You're probably gonna win those 2 games. All right, probably gonna win those 2 games. So I would say, and I'm not trying to put the cart before the horse, but I would say you're going to be 8-5, which is a record that has a very big possibility of making the playoffs. I don't think it's a lock if you ended with that record that you'll be in. I think there might be an 8-5, or maybe I think maybe 1 or 2 8-5s might not make it in. But going forward, you've got a really good chance of being 8-5. Again, if I were a betting man, I would definitely put it on that record there. I wouldn't put it on the over, but I definitely wouldn't be betting the under on that either. Now, looking at your points for and against, you're 100 points up in the 4 position. That's probably why you're sitting at 6-4. It's a 100-point difference with 1,072 for and 971 against. Boom, there you go, 101 points. And your roster has been pretty solid. I see a lot of guys on your roster now that were guys that you drafted. That means you drafted well. Now, I'm not saying you didn't make any moves. I will say this. The fact that you have 57 fab and a good possibility of making the playoffs is kind of scary. That means you're able to play the waiver wire throughout the brackets, throughout the playoffs, that someone like myself or Scott, we don't have the points to do that. If we're in the playoffs, we've spent most, if not all, of our fab. So you've set yourself up very nicely. Now, looking at your lineup here, let's scroll down and let's see what we've got. Gosh, man, yeah, you've got a good chance, man. A good chance, even in the playoffs. So I know Deshaun Watson, Todd Gurley, Zeke, Thielen, Hunt. These are all guys that you drafted, still in your starting lineup. So that's great. That means overall you've probably dodged a lot of the injury, any major catastrophic injury, which is good. You need that luck on your side. Okay? Talk to Jeff about being on the other side of that coin. But and you've got a good bench too. I mean, Stephon Diggs. I know if he wasn't on bye. I mean, come on, man. What a great. Now, did you draft him? I think you did. Yeah, you did. Man, you only got him for $10 too. Oof. Man, good pickup on that, man. All right, and you're setting yourself up. You've got that New England Patriots defense for the playoffs. So you're a man who's definitely had a plan for this. And I know, being a previous champion yourself, you know the pressures of being in the playoffs. All right. Now, look, I again, saying that you've got a decent chance, I know that's easy to say right now because you're in a good position right now. You've set yourself up well. If for some reason you do beat Dan, I don't think it's you playing spoiler. I don't think Dan's going to be knocked out, but I think that would guarantee 100%, that you would make the playoffs. And that's all we got to look at, right? Just make the playoffs. Nobody right now is I hope nobody right now is being like, I'm going to the championship and winning the whole thing, and realistically looking at their team, okay? If you make the playoffs, then you take it week to week, and you go from there. Of course, you've been there. You've been there several times. So, going forward, man, I would probably put your chances at decent overall. All right? Definitely, you can't just coast. You can't coast. But I think you're pretty much on your path to making the playoffs, and hopefully, John, I'll be in there with you. Fingers crossed. All right. Let's see. Who's up next? Scott! All right, Scott. Scott, the hopeful yokel. Listen, man. I don't think it would be out of line for me to say that you have been a fighter this season. Okay? You have made some really good moves. You've been the victim of some unlucky injuries to some of your major guys. Nick Chubb. And right now, Drew Brees. So you're a man who made a lot of moves. Okay? I know I said it about Kurt especially, and I think you're right up there with him. But you're also in a better position right now than most of the league. So you're sitting at 6-4. I know a bunch of us are 6-4. My concern is this. Your schedule going forward is rough. It is a rough schedule. You've got the Finns this week. Then you've got Marsala Maulers. And then Bones Bombers. Did I get that order right? I think I did. But anyway, no matter what order those teams are in, they're all teams right now that are positioned above you. Okay? That's a tough spot to be in. Now, I don't have any advice on moves. Because you can't make any. Trade deadline being the 20th. And being out of fab, you're at the mercy of the waiver wire without any fab and the fantasy football gods. Now, your team, you did get Kirk Cousins, which this week, great. Oh, that was fantastic, man. Considering that Drew Brees, I think he's done. I mean, his injuries sounded like god awful. So, you're streaming quarterbacks going forward, right? But you still got Alvin Kamara. Nick Chubb is back. Fantastic. So you've got that to look forward to. And you've still got guys like Tyreek Hill who can go off. That guy can win you a week, you've got a solid squad. That's why you're in the position you're in now. That's why you're in 5th place. With just 3 weeks to go, man. Overall, your points for and against, you're at 1,115 for and 966 against. That's solid, man. That shows you've got a solid lineup. Now, I know draft-wise, you were pretty conservative. You got paid a lot for your 2 studs with Kamara and Chubb. So you got your 2 running backs. And then everybody else, I don't think Jarvis Landry panned out, but, that's okay. That's all right. Anyway, this is not a draft review looking back kind of situation that I want to talk about. I really just want to talk about each team and their chances of getting to the playoffs. And if you end up making the playoffs, it's going to be a lot of bit of luck. And because, like I said, you've probably got one of the tougher, if not the toughest, time of it going forward. So listen, man, now's the time to pay attention. Like, watch those podcasts, read those articles. I know you're a man who takes fantasy football seriously, and I know I'm not going to tell you anything that's going to, explode your mind. You probably know more than I do. And so the position that you're in, right? You know the position you're in. But I would put your chances of remaining in the playoffs at 30%. Okay? 30%. Take that with a grain of salt, however you want to interpret that. And that's strictly based on your schedule going forward. You've got 4 guys ahead of you in standings. And 3 of them you're playing 3 of them. That's just rough. That's rough. But you never know. If you can get 2 wins, maybe even 1, but 2, I think you've set yourself up to stay in the playoffs. That's going to be my silver lining for you. is if you can win 2, you'll be good. Listen, no matter how it pans out, Scott, I've got a lot of respect for you in your fantasy football game. All right? You've done hell of a job. Hell of a job this season, man. So no matter what the results are, I think you can hold your head high, you know. Blame luck if you don't end up getting to it or getting to the playoffs. You can blame luck for sure. But if you make it in, I think you'll make a strong showing. But you got to make it in first. All right. All right. Hey, definitely good luck going forward, man. Again, I can say that because I'm not going against you. So I hope you win all the games. Well, at least the next 3. All right, man. I'll see you. Maybe. Okay. Still going up that ladder. So we're still in the 6-4 teams here, okay? We've got Matt and the Finns. There's not a whole lot to say. You've got a solid team. You've had a solid team from the draft. No crazy superstars, but you've made enough moves. You haven't made a lot of moves, but you've made enough moves to find yourself currently in 4th. Your points for and against isn't crazy. It's not like you haven't had any points scored against you. It's 1,074 for, 1,174 for, and 1,076 against. So less than 100-point spread over the last 10 weeks. That's good, man. I don't think I don't think I am overly surprised that you're a playoff contender. I think what I'm surprised at is that you're in 4th place. Okay, and I think anybody looking at your draft would be in the same position. And again, I'm not saying that in a bad way, in a negative way. It means you found a lot of good value in the draft. If I look at your roster here, a lot of the guys, DeAndre Swift, Julio Jones, Keenan Allen, Darren Waller, Tyler Lockett, Josh Allen, Leonard Fournette, were all guys that you drafted. Was Ruggs in there too? I think Ruggs was in there. Those are all guys you drafted. So you haven't had to make a lot of, especially with Josh Allen. Holy cow. What a find for him. What did you pay for that guy? 4. 4. Wow. He could very well be this year's like Lamar Jackson comparison, considering the value you got for him, you know? Anyways, so to find yourself in the position that you're in, again, you know, the fact that you are a playoff contender, I'm not surprised at. The fact that you are in 4th place is great. That is a great position to be in. And again, looking at your transactions, you haven't made a whole ton. You've still got a lot of fab, which is good, especially going into the, if you make it in, which your chances are pretty good of making it in based on your schedule. You've got Scott this week, then Kurt, who's feeling fine, and then Ryan and the Black Swan event. So you should easily get 2 W's out of that and a possibility of a 3rd. I think the matchup this week with Scott is going to be pretty close. And, you know, Kurt and Ryan, they could pull off a surprise on you. But if you can get through this week, I think with Josh Allen's bye, I think you'll do all right going forward. So, it's been a solid season for you. I don't think you haven't been too unlucky. Maybe a little bit unlucky here or there, but nothing like, you know, your top 2 draft guys going on IR or, you know, crapping the bed every week. No huge disappointments because, again, you've made some good pickups and you drafted well. Boom. That's the recipe for for success, not disaster. Recipe for success, man. So I think your chances of making the playoffs, remaining in the playoff run, are pretty high. Even if you end up losing this week to Scott, I think going forward, just like I mentioned with John and the Nero's Fiddle, I think you'll end up being 8-5, which should be good enough. Should be good enough to make the playoffs. So, look, you've got some waivers, some fab. So if something tragic does happen, you can run to the waivers and get some. You got 60 points. You can get somebody that you want. So you definitely have that option. But again, trading's out, which I don't think you've had any trades this year. Let me double check that. Yeah, no trades. But anyway, not that you've had to make any. All right, man. So good luck to you going forward. And I think you got a good shot. Just play your best lineups each week. That's it. Just put your best lineup. All right. Moving on up. Okay, guys. Look, we're getting to the cream of the crop here with John the Elder and Bones Bombers. Holy cow, man. What a season. Now, if you had told me at the beginning that you'd be sitting at 6-4 atop the slightly above average teams, I'd have said, you're crazy. There's no way. He must have had an injury to his entire team. But this is where you find yourself. All right? Good spot, but it's not a guarantee, right? If you lose out, you're probably not going to make it. So, what have you got going for you? Well, I will tell you what you got going for you, and in my humble opinion, I think your roster is something you've got going for you, not against you. Your roster is pretty darn good. Your schedule, I think overall, is in your favor to at least get 2, maybe even all 3, maybe even win out. Look, you've had solid performances. You've got a really good lineup. In fact, if we look at it here, let's just take a look at it. I know Lamar Jackson has been a disappointment overall, right? But he's still been good. He's still been good for you. Derrick Henry, gosh, man. That dude has been amazing. I know the last couple weeks he's basically been playing his floor. But then you've got guys like Tyler Boyd and, my God, Travis freaking Kelce. Many games you've won on the backs of that guy. The point advantage he gives you at that position it's just been ridiculous. And there's no reason to think that's going to change. I think that's the key. That's the fun part, right? So, gosh, man. You've set yourself up. Also, because you had such a solid draft, and this is where, I said after the draft recap, you definitely don't win the league at the draft. You can lose it, but you definitely don't win it. But if you draft really, really well, you can end up with 75 fab points at this late stage in the game, barring injury and such. And give yourself that cushion, right? Again, with the trade deadline tomorrow. No more trades. I don't think you had any trades this year, but that's okay, right? That's all right. I know you got an offer from me that I'm really glad looking back you didn't take. But anyways, I'm not trying to rub that in anybody's face or anything like that. But your schedule going forward, so this is the main reason why I think you're a shoo-in for the playoffs. You've got Marsala Mahler this week, which is a very beatable team. Very beatable team. I haven't talked a lot about Marsala Mahler because his team hasn't come up yet. But anyway, I'll be talking a lot more about his team during the last segment of this video. But I think he's very beatable, especially with your lineup. He's very beatable. And then you've got Scott and Kurt. So Yokel and Feeling Fine. The hopeful Yokel and Feeling Fine. which again, both of those are winnable games for you, especially feeling fine. Very winnable games. So I wouldn't be shocked if you win out. I think your chances of winning out, if I were to throw a number on it, would be 73%. Okay? That you're going to win out. And that's, again, barring anything major, injuries and such. Which would put you at 9-4. Which, boom, you're in. You're in. Not you're in. You are in. You're in. I need to enunciate more, I think. So, I think you've got the second strongest team in the league right now. So, in the playoffs, that makes you a very dangerous opponent. And one that when I make the playoffs, I wouldn't mind seeing you later rather than sooner. Okay? All right, so just win out. Win out and you won't have to worry about that. Or I won't have to worry about that. All right, man. Overall, listen, season so far, I know it's the season not over. You have played a hell of a game to be in the position you're at from the get-go, from the draft on. I'm not saying it's been easy, but you set yourself up in the draft to have a great season. And so far, it's been a good season, but I think it could end up being great. Okay? I think you're a contender. And I wouldn't be upset if that happened, if you ended up taking the whole thing. If it's not me, then I'm okay with it being you. All right. Listen, I'm not going to tell you anything that's going to make your position any better. You're making all the right moves. You're top of the above averages right now with a lineup that I think doesn't reflect 6-4. I think your lineup, you should have a better record, but you've set yourself up to be successful in the playoffs, provided that you do make the playoffs. All right, because you're still on the bubble. You know, all the 6-4 teams are on the bubble. But the chances look good for you, young man. They look good for you. Okay, Dan. With these unprecedented times, hang on, wait a minute. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now we can see the name of your team. We didn't know what it was before. You find yourself in second place right now at 7-3. You also find yourself in a position where your team is figuratively on fire. They are playing well. And this is the time of year where you could really benefit from that, especially if you're going into the last stretch here at 7-3. You have not taken it easy on anybody, and nor should you. But I know from the draft, I've been a fan of your team, and I have watched them with great interest. Not like creepy interest, great interest. Because, gosh, man. You and Bones, if I'm a betting man, I think one of you guys takes the title. Okay? I think you guys both have the strongest roster going into the playoff season. And the last three games for both of you guys, I think both of you guys have a very strong chance of winning at least 2 of the 3 games. Dan, I hope you lose at least one of them, and that's because you're playing me next week. So just take it easy on that week. Because I think I have to win out to make the playoffs. I think that's the position I'm in. But, so you've got John with Nero's Fiddle this week, me, and then Roy. So 3 of the upper middle of the road teams with your roster. Gosh, I don't want to say we don't stand a chance, but I don't think, just looking at things over, I don't think we stand a chance. So, what does that mean going forward? Well, in terms of moves that you need to make, none. If you need to make moves, you're kind of at a disadvantage. You've got 0 fab. Okay? And that's okay. You don't really need a lot of fab. I mean, look, going forward, you've got backups on backups at your skill positions. Fantastic. You haven't had, you don't need to like sit there and sit on a defense to take up a roster spot because your team is performing so well. Like your skill positions are on lock, man. I know it's probably going to end up being one of the shorter segments of all the teams that I'm talking about, only because, look, you've got the biggest spread in terms of points for versus points against. You've got 1244. Is that right? And 946 against? Holy crap. Man. You don't have the most points for. Could be anybody that has that. Me, I do. I have the most points for. But the fact that you're beating your spread, the points against by so much, I believe yours is the largest margin. I might be wrong, but I don't think I'm wrong. Just scanning the numbers over. Dan, I would say your chances of making the playoffs are 100%. Okay? Making the playoffs. That means if you lose out, if you became 7-6, I think you'd still make it. Maybe not. But I don't think you're going to lose out. I don't think you're going to lose any of your games. But I know, listen, it's pretend football, you never know. But the way Dalvin Cook has been performing and Josh Jacobs, and you got Dalvin Cook's at Dallas this week. Jacobs has Kansas City. Gosh, man. Okay. Enough fawning over your team. You're great. Team's great. You got a good chance of making the playoffs, okay? Again, I don't want to jinx you and say you're going to win. But again, if I was a betting man, which I am, I'd put my money on either you or Bones at this point. So, good luck going forward, except next week. I hope you just slip and drop all your guys to your bench. Is that possible? It's possible. You could do that. Okay. So do that next week. Good luck, man. Okay, the last team to talk about. And the reason why you're last, Vince, is because you're at the top. Right now, you're at the top. Vince and the Marsala Maulers currently sitting at 9-1. So, look, the good news is this. You're going to make the playoffs. Even if you lose out, you're going to make the playoffs. I don't think you're going to lose out. I don't think you've got a mixed bag of opponents going forward. Now, I'm going to be real with you. I think you've been one of the more lucky teams this season. I'm not saying that with any sort of bias. I'm saying that in the fact that Robot Draft, you've had the least points scored against you by a pretty decent margin. So, let's see. Against 857. 857. You've had fewer points scored against you than the bye week team. And people don't set their lineups against the bye week team. So, I'm not trying to rain on your parade. You're at 9-1. You deserve to be where you're at. But I don't want you to fall for the mirage that you can just coast to the championship. Your points for, you're right there in the middle of the pack. It's really the point against. You've seemed to, the fantasy gods have lined up your matches so that people don't perform well against you overall, right? And again, the numbers are saying that. It's not just me saying that. Again, I wish everybody could win, but that's not going to happen. Now, nevertheless, you're sitting at the top spot. What are your chances of making the playoffs, like I said before, 100%, you're in the playoffs. Do I think you're going to remain number one? No, I don't. I think you have a good chance of being number two at best. Maybe even number three, but you've got a 2-game lead. So maybe 2 is the low. Maybe that's the low point, and you'd have to lose out to do that. I don't think you're going to lose out. The last 3 games. I don't think you're going to lose all of them. You've got Bones coming up. That's a very tough matchup. Then you've got Josh and the Wet Ass Pips. Not as much of a rough matchup, but you never know. And then finally Scott, the hopeful yokel, who, like I said during his segment, he's been a fighter. He has definitely got a solid squad. So, if you can keep the luck on your side, then yes, maybe you can coast to the championship. But at least right now, at this moment in time, you're a lock to get to the playoffs. If I was a betting man, there wouldn't even be a bet for you because you wouldn't be listed. Because it's like the Kansas City against the Jets. Probably no bets were made on that team in terms of who's going to win. The bet didn't exist. Now, looking at your lineup, again, I know you auto drafted, but you got probably the most value in the draft by far in terms of the guys you have. A lot of the guys on your roster, on your lineup, are guys you didn't start with. Now, you've made transactions. It's not 100%. You have definitely made some moves, but your fab is still at 100, which means you didn't have to spend any fab to pick up anybody. And again, I think that's because you got a lot of value from the draft. I mean, with Antonio Gibson especially, probably the best value you got in the draft. And then you've scored guys like DeAndre Hopkins. Boy, what a season he's been having with Kyler Murray, Ronald Jones. And, you've had the revolving door at QB. You've made the right choice probably more times than not in terms of your QB trifecta. And then you've had guys like Cooper Kupp, who he's had his weeks, Juju's had his weeks, Anyways. Now, look, in terms of the overall success of the playoffs, it's going to be rough because that's when it's only the cream of the crop, right? Your luck will have to hold. Your luck will have to hold. Or spend all your fab. Maybe somebody blows up. In previous years, there's been kind of that guy that, after week 1 or the week before the playoffs who goes nuts. Well, you could be guaranteed to get that guy. You have 100 fab, boom, pick him up. Now, listen, good luck going forward. I know you don't need luck to get into the playoffs, but good luck in the playoffs. And, we'll see what happens. Don't rest on your laurels. Who's this Laurel person anyway? Don't rest on them. All right, man. Good luck going forward. And we'll see what happens in the rest of the season. Now, to close things out, I don't really have a lot to say now. I've said all my pieces to all the teams. Again, just kind of keeping it real, not being mean. I don't think I was mean. I think I was pretty on point with my analysis, if you can call it that. Really opinion, really. Little bit of analysis, a lot of bit of opinion. To those of you guys who are not happy with where you're at, do better. Do better next year. A handful of you guys, that's what you got to look forward to is next year. To those of you guys still in the running, now's the time to pay attention. Not everybody pays attention, to the pretend football. But now, if you're one of those 5-5, 6-4 teams, you've got a chance. Make the moves. Some people have a better chance than others, depending on their schedule. But I think only 3 teams I would say are a lock. Really, really, really 2. But I think I'd throw Bones in there as well. I'd be shocked if Marsala Maulers, Unprecedented Times, and Bones Bombers. If either of those three don't make the playoffs, I would be pretty shocked. So, all right, guys. Good luck in this week of pretend football. I know it's already started. I've gotten this one out super late, only because I decided to change gears. But anyways, good luck, guys. Stay safe out there. I'll talk to you next week.